Well, what are some things in which we can do with pears and apples? We'll focus on those two things because there are a lot of different options that you can utilize those fruits for.
So you can can your pears and apples. And actually, I have a coworker who has a pear tree, and he's always dropping off pears to us and stuff, too. So if you're lucky like that.
Back the truck up and bring it over to the house. Yeah, because our pear tree has all but died.
Yeah.
It went through a tremendous growth last year. Literally magnitude of thousands of pounds of pears that was snapping limbs off, and it went through a shock. We trimmed a bunch of limbs off, and there's one little chunk of tree still left living. We don't know if it will come back. It's a very old tree. It's been there for many years on the property. Nobody has an idea of the variety or of when that tree was planted. We do have many seedlings that have started from the droppings of those fruits over the years. So we do have a backup, dozens of backups, but we would like that tree to recover, but we have not hired an arborist to give us the professional information that may be required on taking the tree down or letting it regenerate and come back next spring. So, always good when you get free is the best word of a gardener. Free this, free that.
But it's good to help local businesses and go pick your own too.
Yeah.
So you can can your pears and apples. You can create a light syrup to can them in. You can can them in your own juice. You can add cinnamon. People can them. They make like boozy canned pears or apples too. So
now, when we can them, is it a water bath or pressure can?
That is a water bath.
Okay, and that is, from your experience, the simpler of the two methods of preserving when it comes to canning. Correct?
I wouldn't use the word simple.
Easier.
I wouldn't use the word easier.
Okay, what term would you use there?
Maybe more basic.
More basic. Okay. You don't have to have a pressure canner. You can basically water.
It's probably cheaper because pressure canners can be a little bit costly.
And would you say it's safer?
No.
Nope. Okay.
Okay, so then you can make a pie.
Okay, we've talked about pie.
About
Yeah, pies are a very easy thing.
You can make your own pie filling for future use.
And that's a water bath canning procedure as well.
Yep.
But that requires an ingredient that you have to buy online called clear gel. And explain what that particular item does or allows.
So clear gel is basically like a filler, kind of. What it does is a thickener. There we go. And it makes your pie filling have that nice, like, gooey...
What you would get out of a can that you bought from the store.
Like your own can.
That thick
it's like gooey.
liquid. Yeah, that gooey stuff.
Mm-hmm. So that's what clear gel does. It helps that happen. So that's something that you do have to purchase online, but it's worth it because you get really nice pie filling. And you can just open up, like, make a pie shell, whatever, crust, pie crust, that's the word. Yeah. And then you just dump your pie filling in there, put a crust on top or whatever you want on top.
In the oven it goes.
In the oven it goes, and you're like, yes, pie.
Now, it's a couple of things to be aware of for those who are looking to buy the clear gel product. One, buy what you need because it does have an expiration date on it. It does go bad. And two, you have to use that. People have done, what is the thickener in which some people use? People
use cornstarch, and if you can pie filling with cornstarch, like especially apple or pears, it looks like raw chicken in a jar. It looks really gross.
Okay,
and it gets all chunky. Clear gel is made to cook down and be smooth. Yep.
All right. What are some other options? We can dehydrate the pears and apples for snacks, or we can infuse them into teas later on in the year. You can dehydrate them, and you can freeze them, or you can put them in an airtight jar to keep the humidity from absorbing into those pieces of fruit. And then
do that.
The tea, tea, we can do that.
Pear chutney is good. So chutney is kind of like a salsa, but not. And people typically put it on meat, especially pear chutney or apple chutney. It has a nice sweet taste. So if you put it on like a pork or a salty,
it offsets the balance. It balances everything out. So but don't make that in quart jars. Half pint jars or jelly jars is more than enough quantity for that.
Juicing, you can juice the pears.
We've done
apples,
that. Yep.
You can make pear honey, apple honey. We did this, and it was like just like a sweet, almost like a syrup.
Yes, and you can for pears, you can make pear skin honey. With that, you can do that, and it's a lot of sugar, but it's a very close substitute to bee honey, but doesn't have obviously the properties that bee honey has. But there's recipes for that as well. Mm-hmm. Jellies and jams, we talked about that. That's an easy thing. Pear apple, pear butter.
Wait a second.
Okay, all right. Back up here.
So there's fruit juice jelly.
Okay.
And a lot of people who have had apple jelly it's like the same thing where it's really easy to make, and you can do this with any fruit juice you have.
Okay, this is different than normal jelly.
No, so jam is like when there's chunks of fruit, right?
Okay. And
jelly is when it's like smooth.
Okay.
Okay, so there's something called fruit juice jelly, and it's delicious if you make it with your pear juice or apple juice, because then you make that apple jelly. You can make it with all sorts of stuff. You can make fruit punch jelly or whatever. But
you're just pouring the juice in and making that's the base of the jelly.
Yep.
Okay.
So I would highly recommend that, especially if you have a lot of apples and pears and you juice them and then you make this jelly. Totally worth it.
Okay.
And then we have what were you on?
Pear, apple, and pear butter.
Right. So there's that. That's always delicious. People like that. Same thing with like applesauce, pear butter, apple butter. You cook that down a little bit longer to get that nice smoothness and concentration of flavor. And the best part about that is when you cook it down like that, you don't have to add sugar typically because of how it cooks down and caramelizes.
Now, in the pear, apple, pear butter, with those particular items, do we have to can them, or can we put them, how does the best way, can we just make a little batch and use it now, or how do we prolong that if we don't want to put it through a water bath canner procedure?
You can can it, you can freeze it.
Okay.
You can put it in the fridge, whatever.
Now, it's okay, just to clarify some things here, it's okay to make pear butter, and apple butter in the water bath canning procedure.
Yes.
However, pumpkin butter is not safe in any form of canning because it is a low acid, and it doesn't, you have to can, you have
There's
to
too much thickness.
Too much thickness. You have to pressure can pumpkin in chunks in order to get the safe canning procedure and the right temperature when you pressure can. So just want to put that out there. We tried. we made pumpkin butter one time and ate about a half of a jar until you found that information, and then we poured it all out because we found out it wasn't safe, and neither one of us died, so it worked out okay. So with that being, what else can we do with these?
You can freeze them.
Freeze the pear and apple in chunks, or what do we?
You'd have to blanch them.
Okay.
Yeah, because otherwise they're going to get brown and weird.
Blanching is the procedure of putting them in a hot boiling water for a certain duration of time, and then putting them in an ice bath.
It's not really ideal because it's just not ideal to freeze them.
The shelf life on a pear and apple is not extremely long, but you can get several weeks out of them. You can put them in the fridge, in the crisper. That'll get a little more longevity out of them. But if you're dealing with hundreds of pounds of pears or apples, there's not a whole lot of fridge room for that. And you want to figure out what you're going to do with them rather than let them go to waste.
Yep. And then one thing I didn't have on this list was our pear cider vinegar or homemade apple cider vinegar. A lot of people are onto this apple cider vinegar wellness kick, I guess. I don't know.
There are proven facts.
Yeah. It's really great for you.
We're not doctors, but you can find legitimate sites that show the benefits of using a certain amount of
I drink it every day.
Apple cider vinegar or pear cider vinegar. Yes.
Yeah. So it's not like a great treat. It's a little rough.
It works very well for me for heartburn.
It does work very well for heartburn.
I always pinch my nose because otherwise it will put you to your knees, but it cleans out your esophagus and you don't have that influx of stomach acids that come up in your esophagus as a heartburn would be.
Right.
It does work very well for that.
But you can make your own, and it's a fermentation process. It takes something like 2 months, something like that.
2 to 4 months based on your environmental conditions in your home, yes.
All together, and it's a nice way to use like the scraps of your pears or cores.
And you can also just use the pears themselves. If you got to me, you start chopping pears up.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.